I'm here because I lost my daughter to DFACS. They made her go live with the father's sister because they found drugs in our home, and so I'm just here because I want my kid back.
Okay. Well, why don't you tell me about yourself and your family?
I'm 23. I got pregnant at 19 with my daughter, Nessa Rose. Never wanted to go to college, just tried to make things work with the dad, but he didn't really treat me right, so I just left. I've been living with friends and family ever since, just trying to find work. I got some okay family, I guess, but not many of them really want anything to do with me because they think I'm just trouble. So I'm surprised Nessa Rose's aunt said yes. I love Nessa Rose with all my heart and just want her back. It's not fair.
Okay, well, you mentioned DFACS finding drugs in the home. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I started using anything I could get my hands on since I was like 16. I guess it got worse after I left Nessa Rose's father. I'll still use whatever I can afford, bargain for, drugs or alcohol or whatever.
Okay, well, what do you think about the possibility of going through detoxification?
I'd love to get clean, but I just don't see it happening. I always go back.
Okay, so I want to talk about what are some things that you like about using drugs and alcohol? What are the benefits?
I guess it just takes me away, like I don't worry as much because I don't have to think. I just sit back and let all my fear and worries fly away. It's hard to explain it. It just makes me feel better.
Okay, well, I'd love at some point in our sessions to think about some ways that you can get those benefits without using drugs and alcohol, whether it be coping mechanisms or joining more social groups or whatever, just ways that you can become stress-free and worry-free without having to use alcohol or drugs. But first, I just want to know, what do you want to do about your drinking and drug use?
I guess I just want to stop, so get clean so I can get my daughter back.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for being so open with me. I know that couldn't have been easy. Now that we've identified the change that you want to make, I'd like for us to do a worksheet aloud together that will hopefully help you identify what changes you want to make, what you want to get out of these sessions, give you more clarity as to why you want to make these changes, and then the positive outcomes that it could bring about. So I'm going to give you this change plan worksheet, and you can just read along while I ask you the questions. Okay? So I know that you stated earlier that you wanted to change your substance use behaviors. Are there any other changes that you want to make at the moment?
Not right now. I just want to get clean so I can get Nessa Rose back.
Okay, so what are some specific areas or ways in which you want to change?
I guess I just want to stop depending on drugs and alcohol and stop feeling like I needed to be happy or stress-free,
Right, okay. So what are the most important reasons why you want to make these changes?
Just my daughter, and I guess sometimes my own well-being too.
Good, I'm glad you realized that. So let's talk about consequences. What are some likely consequences that will happen if you fulfill this change plan and you change these behaviors?
So, if I do change, then I can get my daughter back and hopefully get her to forgive me and live a better life.
Right, exactly. So what are some consequences of you not fulfilling this change plan and just not trying to change these behaviors?
If I don't change, then I'll probably never get her back, and I'll just end up living in an alley and dying alone.
Good. I'm glad that you realize it seems like you have a good understanding of the consequences of fulfilling this change plan and of not fulfilling this change plan. And let's talk about some motivations for change. So what's motivating you right now to change these behaviors?
My daughter.
So, what are some steps that you plan to take on this change plan?
Aren't you supposed to tell me that? My steps are just to do whatever you tell me to do because DFACS told me to be here.
Well, how about we figure out these steps together? Does that sound good?
Sure.
Okay, well, let's think about this for a minute. What do you think are some specific first steps that you can take to make this change?
I don't know.
Okay, well, you mentioned you've tried to get clean before.
Yeah, multiple times.
Okay, well, when you did, what was it that made that unsuccessful? What were you not doing that you should be doing now to make this behavior change successful?
I mean, I guess before I said I would get clean, but I wasn't really serious about it. I still had stashes under my mattress, and I couldn't resist the temptation knowing they were still there in my house where I slept. So I guess I could just make my living area drug and alcohol free for starters.
That's a great first step. Any others that you can think of?
Previous times I would always get calls or texts from my dealers or the people I would get high with, and I would try to ignore it, but I would always end up replying and meeting up with them, so I guess I could delete their numbers from my phone or something.
That's awesome. Those are some great first steps. So now that we have those down, I want to talk about asking other people for help and how you can get that help.
Okay.
So I want to start off by asking, what are some specific ways that people can help or support you in this change?
I don't know. I don't really have other people to rely on. I mean, I have my mom, and she's okay at supporting me, but she lives in Chicago, and so it's hard for us to keep in touch because she's so far.
Okay, well, maybe we should brainstorm ways you could go about eliciting other support. So, like, finding people, asking them for help, and getting help from them.
Yeah, I mean, I did go to AA meetings a couple years back, and I had this sponsor who still calls me and stuff and checks in on me, but I just tell them I'm fine because I don't want to disappoint them because they were always really supportive of me and good to me. But I guess I could be honest with them and tell them what's going on, and that way I can have them as someone to go to.
Good. That's awesome. We've covered a lot of ground. Now that we have the plan loosely laid out, I want to focus on ways to determine whether or not the plan is working. So kind of a way to measure it. So first I just want to ask about what you hope will happen as a result of this change. So you did it. It worked great. What do you hope will have happened by then?
I mean, I just want to get clean and get my daughter back.
Okay, so that is your goal, your driving motivation for this plan, right? I know you've said it a few times. So aside from this goal, what are some other benefits you may expect to come across as you work this plan towards your end goal?
Like, good things that would come from this plan other than getting clean and getting Nessa Rose back?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I'd be able to keep my job for longer than 6 months because I would show up more and on time and sober. And I don't know if this counts, but I would hope that at some point working on this plan, I'd be able to at least visit with Nessa Rose, you know? And DFAC says I can't until I prove I'm clean through the random drug tests.
Yeah, that definitely counts as exactly right. So those are great. Now I just want to talk about predicting possible problems or roadblocks that you may encounter when carrying on this plan. So I know we kind of touched on this earlier when you mentioned that your previous attempts at getting clean have been unsuccessful because you had temptations of drugs in your home and like access to drugs through your phone. Are there any other situations or changes that you would predict may cause this plan to go awry? Awry means like wrong.
I mean, I guess if there was ever like a setback with DFACs, like if they drag out this amount of time that I get to see Nessa, even if I'm following their rules like they usually do, that will just piss me off and make me want to quit. If I'm putting in the work, I want to be rewarded for it, you know? I don't want to see setbacks.
Yeah, that would be super frustrating to feel as though you're not getting any reward for the effort that you're putting forth into working your plan.
Yeah.
So knowing that this could be a possible setback for you, what are some ways that you think you could stick with the plan and keep working despite the potential setback?
I don't know. I mean, I'd be pretty pissed if I can't. I mean, I'd be pretty pissed off. I can't think of a way to make keep working towards a goal that's showing no sign of progress.
Are you sure you can't think of any reason to keep going even though it might be hard or you might encounter a setback?
Well, I guess I could just keep in mind that even if I do encounter this setback, going back to drugs and alcohol won't fix anything, you know? I mean, it won't get Nessa Rose back any faster, and it'll probably make me never get her back. So I guess just keeping that in mind, the drugs will never be the answer, could help me move forward with this whole plan thing.
Awesome. So that was great. It was a great change plan worksheet, and hopefully through this you've identified what change it is you want to make, the first steps that you would take in doing it, the possible consequences of doing this plan, and the potential setbacks that you could encounter and the ways that you can push through them. So that's the end of our first session. Next session, I'm just going to touch base with you and do something that I do not know because I didn't write that part. Oh my shit, that was so hard. What if it was like not recording the whole time?
It still could say that, so don't jinx